Welcome to day 1. So in today's video, we're going to focus on the foundations and anatomy of supported headstand. Without a solid foundation, it's going to be very hard to get upside down, hold it, and do it safely. So today we're going to walk through step by step of how to get set up for supported headstand and how to engage all the muscles you need to in your body in order to stay upside down. So let's get started. So I'll have you come onto all fours to start, and then sit down onto your heels. So a supported headstand is with your forearms on the ground, your fingers interlaced. It's a nice triangle here of a foundation. Now the rule of thumb, the general rule of thumb, is to bring your forearms down, grab opposite elbows, and then release your hands and interlace your fingers. And that's the distance that your elbows should be at. However, I will say that if you have really tight shoulders, or if that just doesn't feel good to have your elbows that close, feel free to widen the stance a little bit. If you start to widen it too much though, you'll lose that really steady foundation, because if your elbows are really wide, you're balancing on like a straight line versus a nice triangle base. Right, so find somewhere like in the middle here. All right, so with your forearms down, you'll interlace your fingers, and then your bottom pinky is going to be pressing down into the ground, and if there's weight pressing down from your hands, it's going to feel like your fingers kind of getting smushed. So we'll have you tuck your bottom pinky so that your pinkies are stacked on each other. Now this creates a nice smooth base from your palm all the way across your fingers. And then the last thing is like the basic setup is bringing the top of your head to the ground. And the top of your head, like roughly here, is what's resting on the ground. And you'll use the base of your thumb, like this really squishy part of your hand, to press into the back of your head as extra support. So not only do you have this nice triangle foundation in your arms with your elbows and your hands, you also have a nice triangle of foundation on your head with like the tops of your fingers and the really beefy part pressing into the back of your head. And this is actually very useful once we get upside down and start to hold it and find balance, because if you start leaning one way or the other, you can press like more firmly into your head and press down into the forearms to help you find your balance. So when you put your head on the ground, I want you to play around a little bit to find a spot where your neck is in a straight line from the rest of your spine. Your cervical spine in your neck, they're not designed to be weight bearing. So place little weight as possible into your head. Right, like the vertebrae in your low spine here, your lumbar spine, those are really big and beefy, and they're designed to bear weight, but your neck isn't. And I don't want you to have like your chin up too high or your chin tucked in when you're in a headstand, because that could cause some injury. Right, so just play around a little bit, and a good way to do this is videotape yourself. That way you can really see if your body's in a straight line when you're doing this. So we'll just practice this general setup. So grab opposite elbows, release your hands, interlace your fingers, bring the bottom pinky and tuck it under. And like I said, if you need to move your elbows a little bit, feel free to do so. You know your body better than I do. And then you'll take the top of your head, bring it down to the mat, and see if you can feel like that beefy part of your hand pressing into the back of your head. And then find external rotation in your shoulders, which, come up one more second. It's a lot of ups and downs here. Come up one more second. Let's find the external rotation in your shoulders. So what that feels like is bring your arms by your sides and then flex your hands, fingers pointing forward. Now pretending that both of your arms are like stiff boards, you rotate your fingers out towards the sides and feel your shoulders roll back and down. Right, that's external rotation in your shoulders. So we're going to find that as we come back down one more time here. So get set up, right, external rotation. Hands, top of your head down. Squeeze the beefy part into the back of your head. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips up and just hold here. And then press into your forearms. See if you can lift your head a little bit more off the ground. Yeah, placing very little weight into the top of your head. For one more breath. And release down. All right, so that is your basic setup. Now let's talk some more muscle engagement. When your forearms are down, I kind of mentioned as we are upside down, you're really going to press into your forearms. So you're going to pretend like you're straightening your arms, right? That action really causes you to put pressure down into your forearms. That also causes your triceps to engage and the muscles on the backs of your arms. We also want to activate your biceps, the muscles on the front of your arms. Right, so as you're pressing down, right, your whole arm here should be engaged. All right, then as we're moving down through the rest of your body, I'll have you stand up. And let's pretend like we're in a supported headstand. So bring the palms to touch, your elbows high, right? Bend your elbows like you're pressing your forearms up into the ceiling. Right, really lengthen through your spine. And pause. Now, if you see in my body, if you're like this, where you're sticking your belly out and you're sticking your butt out, we don't want that, right? We want some engagement here. So I want you to hug your low belly in, right? That'll help you to find a neutral pelvis. And when we're thinking about a neutral pelvis, what that means is I want you to find like the little protrusions, the bony parts on the front of your hips, right? They should be right about here. Those in a neutral pelvis will be pointing straight forward. This is, the abbreviation is ASIS, so it's the anterior in front, superior up, iliac spine. So it's the front top part of your pelvic bowl here, these little points. So if you pretend like you have a flashlight on these points, I want it to be facing forward, right? And not facing down, like with a booty pop, and not facing up if you're tucking your hips too much. So find that spot that's just right. And you're hugging your low belly in. Good. Then you squeeze your glutes, right? So engage your butt. And I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. When I squeeze my glutes together, you can see that my thighs are externally rotating. So they're turning outwards. And that also causes my knees to slightly face outward as well, right? Which we don't want. We want the knees facing forward. So once you engage your glutes, you also want to engage your quads so you can activate them by lifting up on the front of your kneecaps. Yes. And then you press into the outer edges of your feet. That activates your abductor muscles, which is the muscles on the outside of your leg that helps you to move your leg out to the side. And then you're also activating your adductor muscles, which is the muscles on the inside of your legs, right? So you're gently pulling your legs in towards each other. So it should feel very, very active and strong here with your foundation. Finally, the last thing is your feet. So I think that how you have your feet in your headstand is a total personal preference. You could point, you could flex, or you could floint, which is a mix of the two. And I personally think I floint a whole lot in my practice. Right? I don't think it matters which one, as long as you're choosing one of them so that you're staying active. Now, the benefit of flexing or flointing is that you imagine pulling your toes back down towards your shin and the outer edges of your feet back towards your shin, and that'll help activate more muscles down here in your lower leg. Okay, So that was a whole lot. By keeping your legs very active in any inversion will help you keep your balance. Because if you have floppy legs, you're likely just going to flop over. So having a very active core, very active legs will help you stay up. And of course, the foundation of your arms and your shoulders is what helps you to get up in the first place. The good news is that you don't have to think about every single muscle engagement as you're trying to learn headstand for the first time, right? You can just think about the really big important things, like your arm placement, right? Just engaging your shoulders, your core, and your legs, like very general. But as you start to stay upside down and hold, you can really think about tweaking your refinements or refine your muscle engagements so that you can feel stronger and stay up for longer. So if you're like, Jessie, that was a whole lot, I don't really know what you just said, let me give you a really quick recap. Basically the foundation and basic anatomy of headstand. Forearms on the ground, roughly elbow width distance apart. Interlace your fingers, top of your head down. Engage your shoulders, engage your core, engage your legs, and activate your feet. And that is all I have for day 1. Tomorrow we are going to start going through some drills to build strength in order to go upside down. So I'll see you then.